Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to You First Monday. And the topic today is that if you don't put yourself first, you're being selfish. I love talking about this because it really turns upside down what we traditionally think is that we need to put ourselves last in order to not be selfish, in order to look after everyone's needs. I'll tell you why it's selfish if we actually put ourselves last and we don't put ourselves first. When we don't look after ourselves, when we don't put ourselves first, we start to become under-resourced ourselves. We become tired, we become emotional, we have a lot going on, and we end up letting ourselves and other people down. And we really find life tough. And as a result, we start showing up differently. We start behaving in a way that's not okay towards others. We become grumpy, picky. We become a bit like drill sergeants, trying to get everybody to be in line with what we need in order to be okay. And so essentially, we're not able to show up in a way that is really pleasing to Allah. So that is why I say that if you don't put yourself first, it's selfish, subhanAllah. So, walaikum salam wa barakatuh, Mariam, good to have you here. I can see there's others here. Make sure you reach out and let me know who's here. So, yeah, if we are looking after everybody else and not ourselves, what tends to happen is we become more resentful. Although the other people may not have even asked us to do that, to put ourselves last or to put them first, the fact that perhaps sometimes they're not even grateful for what we're doing, or they're critical of what we're doing, or it's not good enough what we're doing, we then get quite resentful because we feel like, well, I'm sacrificing myself to do this for you, and the least you could do is be grateful. And yet all of that is something that we have created in our own mind, in our own thinking, that they should be grateful for what we're doing, when in actual fact, it may not even be that they have expected that or asked that of us. We created that in our own mind, that we needed to show up in that way in order for everything to be okay. So then when we're not getting the responses from the people around us that we expect we should get, we become resentful. The more resentful we become, the more frustrated our behavior is towards the others around us. Sorry, I'm just going to mute my phone so it's not going to keep beeping and ringing through what we're doing here. And so we actually then start behaving in an angry, snappy, not very nice way towards the people around us. Worse still, if this is happening at an adult level, like if it's the adults in our life that aren't giving us what we expect in return for what we're doing and sacrificing for them, the ones that bear the brunt of this are often the kids. And it's not that they've done anything wrong, but they end up being the ones that are always in trouble. We're less patient with their mistakes. We're less patient with their challenges and their struggles. We can't actually see what it is that they need from us, and we become grumpy and snappy and cranky towards them, and it's not fair on them. So again, another way in which we're showing up in a way that's not pleasing to Allah. So if we start looking at it like this, you can see that by not putting our needs first, by not sorting out what we need in order to be the best servant of Allah, we are being selfish, because our behavior towards others becomes inappropriate. It's not okay, and we start harming the people around us with the way we're feeling, subhanAllah. So that is my take on the fact that not putting yourself first is selfish. I would love to hear your thoughts of it. I see there's a few of you here. Share with me what your takeaway from this is, or your questions. Could I give an example of what needs you're talking about? Okay, so let me think. The one that seems to pop into my mind, probably because it's the one I've always been most challenged with, is sleep, right? Is that quite often I don't get enough sleep. And when when we don't have enough sleep, of course, we're under-resourced physically, but also it does seem to affect us emotionally as well. We have less patience. And so, I might, instead of organizing my family and telling them that, we all need to sleep earlier, that homework needs to be done earlier or something like that, I might sacrifice my sleep in the evening working with one of my kids on their school assignment or something when we should have done it earlier. And instead of setting a limit and saying, okay, we didn't do it at that time, so that's it, sorry, we have to go to bed, and keeping the limit, I sacrifice my sleep and sacrifice our limits and our rules because I feel sorry for my child. I don't want him to get into trouble. Let's work on that. And then I'm showing up in a way where I'm quite negative and not very, very positive in the way I'm helping. And then also the next day I'm extra tired because I start work at 6 in the morning, so I need my sleep at night to be alert first thing in the morning. And so then in the morning, instead of being refreshed, I'll be resentful perhaps to that child because it's because of that child that I sacrificed that time, and that child's now being difficult because they're tired in the morning to get to school, and it looks like they're being ungrateful. And so it all just gets really messy because I didn't hold the boundaries or set the limits properly before. But it's not the child's fault. It was my responsibility to set those limits, and it was my responsibility to make sure that we all got the sleep that we needed. So setting a boundary around the things that we need, and we all need a certain amount of sleep. We all need time out too. So sometimes someone will ask of us and to do them a favor, and we don't have anything specific that we're meant to be doing, but it was our downtime, our time to chill and not be doing something for other people. But we feel like because we don't have something specific on, that we have to say yes. And so we say, okay, even though our heart says no, because this was our time, it was our recovery time. And we feel like we're not justified in taking that time out because we don't have something specific on. And then we become resentful. So we show up doing that favor not in our best way. We're doing it reluctantly. The other person perhaps picks up on that. And so then there's tension, and then it goes pear-shaped. And then we think, oh, well, you disturbed my quiet time, so I could do you a favor. And now you're not even grateful that I did you that favor. And we get ourselves emotionally caught up in that and start saying and speaking and behaving in ways that may not be so pleasing to Allah in the way we're showing up. And the thing is that it was all our own doing because we said yes when we really meant no. But it looks like to us that we've done a good deed and people should be grateful and pat us on the back for that, and now we're resentful because they're not. So if we're not putting ourselves first, if we're not actually saying what we actually mean, then we end up being selfish in the end. So we need to be what we believe to be selfish first in order to not to really be selfish. Sometimes I feel guilty having downtime while the kids are around. Yes, but for most mums, the kids are always around, and especially in lockdown, the kids are always around. So when are you going to have downtime? We weren't designed to be robots to work constantly. And in fact, having rest time, downtime, time for ourselves to refresh ourselves is also an act of worship if our intention for doing that is so that we can show up as more pleasing to Allah. Because we know that if we're rested, we're going to be our better selves, right? So let's turn things upside down. It's not okay to sacrifice ourselves to the point that we are not pleasing Allah anymore. That's not okay. Yeah. So this could be part of what's going on, Mariam, with the way you're feeling angry. That that anger can be coming from resentment, and resentment from, where's your time? Where's what you need? And the thing is, we can't wait for a knight in shining armor to come along and give it to us, because that's not going to happen. That's not in the real life. That's Disneyland or Disney World or whatever you want to call it, Walt Disney's version of the world. We have to take charge of that. We have to make the time. We have to take the time out. So for me, when my kids need me and I know that I'm not emotionally in a good space, I'll say to them, I can't do this right now. You guys need to give me a timeout. I'm going for a timeout. And then once I've had that timeout, I'll be here for you, and I'll be a much better person for it, and I will show up for them much better. So them being patient for a little while means that they get a better version of me than if I persisted in trying to be there for them when I know I don't have the capacity anymore. And this is with all of our relationships. If we can know our limits and just say, I'm at the end of my limit, I need a timeout, then inshallah, sorry, someone is trying to call me. If I need a timeout and I don't give myself that timeout, I'm going to start behaving badly towards others. So that's why we have to put ourselves first when it comes to our emotional needs and where we're at physically, spiritually, emotionally. If we're not in the best place, we're not going to be in the best place for others. And so if we push on and then get resentful to those who we're pushing on for, that's our own doing. It's not theirs, subhanAllah. And that's where we get confused in it. So I hope that's been helpful. Anyone got any questions around that? Good questions and comments, Mariam, that you've put there. Because I think what you're saying is exactly what the problem is for a lot of mums. That whole self-sacrificing thing. SubhanAllah. Yeah, if you're not in a good place and you need space, they act out. That's exactly how it works. And so basically it exacerbates the situation. Whereas if you can take a time out somehow. And what I say to moms is, if your kids are old enough, take a walk. Just get out of the house and just allow time for those feelings to just diffuse, right? If that's not possible because the kids are too young or there's no other adult to look over them, then I also suggest making sure they're safe and then going into another room. They'll probably follow, but you do your best. Get into another room by yourself, like particularly your bedroom, and get the pillow and just whack the bed with the pillow as much as you can. It's actually quite good for releasing the tension out of you. Or shaking, like if you just shake, it's really good for releasing physical tension. And when we release the physical tension, often the emotional tension starts to relieve as well. Or breathe deeply. Get on the phone to someone you're close to and say, look, I don't need you to fix anything or do anything, but I need to just go blah for 5 minutes. Can you just listen to me while I just have a bit of a verbal outburst for 5 minutes? And it's like taking the valve off the pressure cooker, just letting that pressure off and just getting it out of the system. Shaking's a good one, because if you've got the kids with you and you can't get time alone, get them to shake with you. So I'm going to do something that makes us all feel good. Let's all shake and just have a shake together, and it can be quite funny and silly and everyone gets laughing, and you'll find that once you've had laughter with the kids, it just breaks the tension, subhanAllah. So the key thing here is that when we see that we are under-resourced, that we're running low, we have to do something about it. It's our responsibility. No one's going to stand beside us on the day of judgment and go, it's my fault she behaved like that. She didn't have enough time or anything like that. We have to make the time. We have to take responsibility of where we're at emotionally and do whatever we need to do in that moment to defuse, so that we can put ourselves first, so that we can then put the others first after us. SubhanAllah. Allah first, of course, but that goes without saying when I'm speaking. So if I'm talking about these sorts of things, Allah is always first. But in terms of, in a practical sense, if we're in that moment, we have to put ourselves first. And if we don't, we're being selfish, because we will lash out and say and do things towards others that's not okay. That's why it's selfish. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad you're here, Mariam, and everybody else who joined. And if you're listening to the recording later on, please feel free to ask your questions and share your takeaways. So this is it for You First Monday. Put yourself first. It's important, and it's selfish if you don't. That's my message for today, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.